of the people, and you also have to have economic development. All of these things coming together constitute a democracy, and even today, America is not a perfect democracy. Britain is not a perfect democracy. Israel is not a perfect democracy because of the fact that there is too much political division. You have how many? 12 parties in Israel.
So
competing with one another.
But there are some very significant changes going on in the Middle East, which I think that you haven't gotten to.
I agree.
There's different kinds of democracy.
Let me just say whether the changes right now in the Middle East. One of the things but one of the things that we've seen is we're seeing a serious discrediting of the Syrian government and the Iranian government when they opened fire on their people. And this was a couple years ago in Iran, and this is unfortunately in a very ugly, tragic way going on in Syria. It discredits the two anti-American leaders, which is Ahmadinejad, plus Khamenei, of course, as well as Assad. And this is very important for the peace process because they are the alternative. They say the peace process cannot work because you basically cannot make peace with Israel or the Jews. Israel needs to be destroyed. Assad plays games, but that's really what he's saying. And today, the people of Syria are really seeing, and I think they knew it before, but they were afraid, and that's why they're actually taunting the army, and they're saying, why aren't you going in Golan? It's not necessarily they want the army to go to war with Israel. They see Assad as a liar. He taunted the Arab leaders who supported Israel in its war against terrorist Hezbollah and called them cowards. He said the Israelis are worse than Nazis. And we see in an undeniable way the world has ignored the face of Iran in Syria. It hasn't really confronted these countries.
Yeah, well, why are we, if we're going to talk about this, why are we in Libya? These are all civil wars. Are we going to go into every one of them? Why is the United States involved in Libya's civil war? I don't quite understand this.
I don't understand it.
I'm
not sure that Obama understands.
Well, there's one of the most important explanations is that if we did nothing, we would be sending a message to the Arab world and the Iranians that you just kill as many people as you can, which is historically what they do, and you'll win.
We are sending this message anyhow. We didn't get involved in Iran. We didn't get involved in Syria. We didn't get really involved.
I'm an economist by training, and I understand the game theory in military strategy. And what you want to do is you want to raise the doubts of your enemies. And Syria and Iran as enemies. You don't want them to take for granted that the United States is going to do nothing, that the Western world is going to do nothing.
The issue in here is not why. The issue in here is why we are involved in Libya or not. I think is the United Nations issue, is not United States issue. And United States became, right now is the arm for some reason for United Nations. Why United Nations didn't take on themselves to walk in there and to try to create peace or to square whatever going in Libya. So I don't see why United States has to get involved.
I don't understand what you mean by UN. The UN doesn't have forces.
No, not NATO. NATO is not nothing to do with UN. There are. What happened on the border between Israel and Lebanon? What are other places?
But those are like the only forces that are credible are NATO and Lebanon, the French and the Germans.
Wait a minute. They are not being French and they are not wearing uniform of British. They're wearing uniform of United Nations, UN, say and then. Okay, so this is UN organization. If UN will come to the Western world, for example, say, we want every country to donate or volunteer 1,000 people to the UN force, then will be a UN force who go into Libya. It's not a place for the United States to go in there, especially when we have no understanding who is behind those rebels. Look what happened in Egypt. There was no military action, there was no firing, and there was no killing, and so on. It was peaceful as it can be. Not 100%, but as it can be. Where those rebels got all their ammunition.
Well, now the Egyptians are helping them.
Before that, when they started, where did they get it?
They started with arms from the very beginning.
They were able to
Do you think
basically.
Iran did
But
that?
it wasn't a peaceful demonstration.
They got arms even from Libyan army bases. And you also have to understand, Libya was, and originally it was actually allied with Iran and Syria. And then not only did it start to break away from them, it had an ugly fight with them, and now the governments actually hate each other. That's one of the things going on behind the surface. But basically, the calculations of the United States and Europeans right now is that Gaddafi, if he wins this fight, will very likely return to that type of support of terrorism. And they really have no idea what this insane guy is going to do. And they feel frustrated that they were ineffective in the protests in Iran, and that so far those protests have been crushed. And they do not want to just stand around waiting.
But Libya is the least important country to get involved there. If they want to get involved in a certain place, it should have been Iran, because Iran is the country that instigates and supports most of the problems that are happening in the other countries.
But that's true. That's very true. But with the help of Syria,
Put yourself in the position of Obama. Here is the President of the United States. He's got a very difficult situation. He's got 2 wars on his hands already, and he's facing a possible 3rd war. He has to be cautious. He can't be everywhere. He can't be in Syria. He can't be in Iran. And I think there is a limit to the United States' ability to be a policeman for the world. For one thing, it's economically reducing the power of the power of the United States is mainly economic, and the economic situation is deteriorating every day.
Right.
Well,
and I think we cannot afford to be policemen all over the world. And I have to agree with Obama's very cautious and very correct policy that he can't be. We can probably say we support this and we support that, but we can't do very much. And we can't do very much in the United Nations either, because we have China and Russia vetoing everything.
Well, I mean, it's actually, remember, it's the prolonged ground engagements that are costly economically and strain our military.
It still costs quite a bit of money just by flying the planes over and shooting those rockets, because each one of them is millions of dollars, and we already spent probably, and that's only the cost of the hardware that we were losing there. We didn't put the cost of all the other things, how much fuel we have been spending with all the planes and deterioration.
Should we be out of it?
And so on.
We should be pulling out of Afghanistan.
We're probably already into the billions of dollars in Libya, and nothing happens. It's still a civil war over there, and we shouldn't have been there in the first place.
And we should. What about Afghanistan? We're in. Remember Obama, when before he became president, he was knocking Bush, saying that we shouldn't be in Iraq, and so as soon as he became president, he went into Afghanistan. What has?
Well, he had a surge in Afghanistan.
What did it do?
The situation in Afghanistan is this: that we will win the war in Afghanistan as long as there are U.S. troops in Afghanistan. The moment we leave, it will collapse. And my prediction is that it won't necessarily be taken over by the Taliban, but it will be taken over by Pakistan, which owns the Taliban. And that's the future that I predict. That's going to happen in 2020.
Well, China is going to play a role in Afghanistan.
They're already playing a role.
So, and India will act to counter Pakistani influence. And Pakistan depends on the United States to a certain extent. They're a lot weaker than the United States or even India. So I don't know that they could take it over. I want to go back to Iran. You know, we have a couple fears with them. It's a huge country. It's mountainous. We can't really get a lot of armed forces in it. It would be extremely costly in terms of lives. You know, any type. So a ground.
And where's their nuclear facility?
Well,
it's in the mountains.
Yes. But basically, in event of hostilities between the United States and Iran, which is very credibly going to be then caused by them starting it with the United States rather than vice versa, because there's some very crazy inclinations of the government.
You don't realize that there is enmity between Afghanistan, which is Sunni, and Iran, which is Shia.
There was. The Taliban fought it with Iran.
It still exists.
But you know that U.S. military reports are actually saying now that Iran is arming the Taliban. But the Taliban did fight with Iran. I'm aware of that. They used to massacre Shiites.
Well, but those are just skirmishes. I don't think that we can explain an Iranian presence in Afghanistan. I think that's just a side issue. I think the main issue is the United States presence. The United States has got to withdraw at some point. In fact, the timetable is that we will withdraw in 2014.
But every country we've been in, we still leave a military base in it. We're still in Germany. We're still in all these different countries. When we do leave, we never leave completely. We always have a base.
Yeah, but in Germany, we don't get involved with the political life over there.
Have we ever really left in any country that we've been in? Have we really left it?
Only as a military tripwire.
Yeah,
we left the Philippines. What I'm saying about Iran is not in regards to Afghanistan, but their troublemaking role in the Middle East. They're clearly the chief sponsor of anti-American terrorism. But in the event of U.S.-Iranian hostilities, or perhaps Israeli-Iranian hostilities, Hezbollah is very likely to strike majorly in the United States and around the world, and have threatened to do so.
The problem with Iran is that we are afraid of Iran in terms of its political damage. People don't realize that Iran itself internally is in great trouble. The mullahs, along with Khomeini, are afraid, just as Stalin and Khrushchev and others were afraid of the collapse of the Soviet Union, which eventually did happen. I think eventually Iran will collapse.
Well, economically it may even.
And politically.
Yes. That's one of the reasons why we don't want to bomb Iran. We're afraid that we will antagonize the people who are supportive of the United States.
So I think that's going to happen, but we have to be cautious.
What are your feelings about it toward Israel?
If you take and look from the bird's eye view about the Middle East, there are two countries that can be a major force. It's Egypt one and Iran is second. Egypt for the last 30 years, 40 years was relatively neutral. Okay, it didn't get involved in the political aspect of other countries. Iran did the opposite. Okay, so Iran is truly the culprit of the situation in the Middle East today. So we need to get involved, or to try to get the countries of the world to focus on Iran.
Well, Egypt wasn't neutral; it was pro-American, supported us.
It was American,
but within the Middle East, it was relatively neutral.
It didn't have relations with Iran. It stopped relations. I do not remember how many years ago because of the Iranian problems.
Okay.
And now Egypt is again, and Iran are again considering exchanging.
There are reports of that. That's not entirely clear yet.
Isn't Syria just as dangerous?
No,
than Iran?
Well, yes, but you know what's interesting, by the way, the missiles that Syria has actually technically pose the greatest threat to Israeli civilians and the chemical weapons arsenal, second only to basically North Korea. Okay. So that's one of the things that needs to be...
With the one advantage that Israel has, that we sit on the Golan and you can watch and see Damascus.
Ask the question how many miles away.
See the what?
See Damascus.
It's
directly to Damascus.
It's only 20 miles away, so it's not a problem. But it's not the issue. The issue in my mind, look, Syria is 15 million. Lebanon is what, 6, 8 million. Iraq is 30 million. Iraq will not do anything. They are devastated as it is.
Iran is 80 million.
Iran is 80 million. Egypt is 80 million. These are the two things.
Yeah,
Libya is small.
I think we grossly overestimate the power of all the other countries.
It is, right.
And right now, the United States, with all its problems, is really the only superpower that controls the whole world.
So why go into Libya? Libya is miniature.
We didn't
nothing
have
to do.
We didn't have to go to Libya. We don't have to, but we have to have an influence. And my question is that do we have sufficient influence in Iran? Probably not. But Iran eventually is going to fall of its own weight, just as the Soviet Union.
They need support. They want exactly fall of its own weight.
Libya reminds me of the Bay of Pigs. I think that's what could happen. Because remember we were going to go into Libya and we were going to get, everything, we were going to take the situation in hand and everything was going to be fine. And it still isn't fine.
No, but the problem in Libya right now is the U.S. has gone in very reluctantly and has limited its involvement. The problem in the Bay of the Pigs, maybe it was a very bad idea, but ultimately Kennedy refused to give air support. So they may have had some chance of succeeding in Cuba with air support. With the strength of the U.S. military right now, which is really greater than ever, and the Libyan military had seen better days, if we came in stronger, and I actually think it's probably just better to get it over with, finish Gaddafi off, and not even just say things we won't even do. I mean, even a limited...
How do you do that?
I wouldn't,
without ground forces.
Well, you know what, everyone's scared about ground forces because Powell gave this rule that if you break Iraq, you own it, and that was taken to heart. And then when there was looting and the U.S. didn't stop it, people criticized the Bush administration. I would rather finish them off with tanks and get out. I mean, the U.S. and Israel are very good at that, quick operations in and out, and risk chaos than this horrible stalemate where we guarantee people are going to be killed, and Gaddafi's massacring his own people.
And we guarantee opposition of the rest of the world for that. We will earn the opposition of the rest of the world for being another aggressor nation.
Not if we don't occupy.
And you're forgetting one other thing, that in the Arab world, they will immediately start screaming against the United States that it's occupying another oil country in the Middle East.
And you do
not get out fast enough. You cannot, you are imagining that you go in and you go out. You do not get out that fast. You have to accumulate the war power. You have to bring in, even though we have still soldiers in Iraq and we have in Kuwait and we have people in that area, but you cannot get in and out fast.
Besides, and another thing, don't bring Israel into this scenario at all.
Right.
Well, the U.S. doesn't do that.
I think we are...
Except for Iran.
I hope that our viewers are understanding of all what we're talking about, because this is what we're really doing, is understanding the Middle East. And also, while I have this few minutes, I want to thank my wonderful guests, Keki, again, thank you.
Thank you.
And Ben, Abraham.
Thank you very much.
And Michael, I got you, and Gideon Shavit. I want to thank you all for coming here today. I mean, you are really, I mean, if we had you, and we could have like a little United Nations summit here, I think we could get everything done that has to be done in the Middle East. I have wonderful guests. I mean, this was really extraordinary. And I do invite all of you to come back at another date, and there's still more things about Jerusalem and about other things that we haven't even touched yet, of all the different things that are going on, and I'm sure by the time you come back, there'll be another nation that we would have to solve and their problems. So I think this has been a very good session, and I hope that our viewers have a better understanding about what's really going on in the Middle East. And we could still talk, and we finish some of the other things so that...
It would be like Panama, and their reaction is to go in and get out, though we did have a base already in Panama.
That was 30 years ago, and I don't think we have that kind of militaristic view anymore that the United States